What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Joe here. Listography Jr. week. If you're not aware, on this channel, we often rank discographies of artists. Listography Jr. is where we take some artists with smaller catalogs, under 5 records, and talk about those. So slightly smaller episodes. We have already this week talked about Graham Parsons and Judy Sill, 2 albums each. Today we're talking about Nick Drake, who's got 3. I, like most people, became aware of Nick Drake. I think it was in the 90s, late 90s, maybe early 2000s with the
Awesome.
Volkswagen. What? You're frozen. Hold on. What did you say? 2000s?
I think so.
I believe the first time I saw the commercial, I have a memory of this. I don't know what movie it was, but I think it played before like the previews in a movie theater. Um, the song that was in that commercial was Pink Moon. That kind of lifted him from obscurity and yeah, kind of made people go search out who that was and what he was all about. So yeah, I discovered him then, and then I became also and I can't remember the exact order of events, but he was on the Garden State soundtrack, which we were the perfect age for that movie and the impact it had, and the soundtrack especially. And uh, one of these things first is the song in that soundtrack, and kind of cemented that as one of my favorite songs of his.
I heard that song in that Volkswagen commercial back when it came out, and I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't think it was that great. I didn't really care. And I didn't listen to any of his albums or other songs until we did the 1972 deep dive and heard Pink Moon, the album then, which I liked fine. It was in my top 50, I think, for the year, top 100 for sure. But I am not a Nick Drake head, not a big Nick Drake acolyte like many people. He's one of the three, one of the many sort of obscure artists that never found success that we've been talking about in this Listo Junior week, where, basically completely ignored, and now he's sort of viewed as this, classic, forgotten master of a certain type of music, much like Judy Sill, Graham Parsons, Sandy Denny. There's a bunch of other examples from like the early 70s where, for whatever reason, these guys just didn't become popular, but now you have all these like indie bands covering their material, and you get these reverent write-ups in Pitchfork and Rolling Stone and everything. So um, yeah, I think which one you'll like the best just depends on what type of music that you gravitate towards, because they're all just really supremely talented.
Yeah, I probably agree with that assessment. And yeah, this is like I feel kind of like about Nick Drake the way you feel about Judy Sill. I think just transcendent talent, great songwriter, amazing voice. 3 records. I'll start this one off. I think he did the last 2. My least favorite um, is so when you go on Apple Music, for most artists, they have above the full discography, they'll have a couple essential albums kind of separated out. He's got 3 albums total. 2 of them are listed as essential on Apple Music. One is Five Leaves Left, the other is Pink Moon, and I think that's wrong. To leave out Bryter Layter. It's crazy. My least favorite is Five Leaves Left, which is his first record. And to me, it's the only one that is not 5 stars for me, and it's actually 4 stars. To me, it's the earthiest. It's probably the most rooted in like the blues. A track like 3 Hours has some bluesiness to it. I think it's a little less ethereal than his other works, and he feels like a little more human here. He feels like a folky, whereas on the next records, he feels just like some sort of like spiritual being that's not even a person. And to me, like Bryter Layter and Pink Moon are the types of records where you like can't even understand how it came to be, like where those songs came from. This feels much more just kind of like very good, excellent, like it a lot, but it feels a little bit more like just a folky making a beautiful record. Props to Harry Robinson, though. I think the string arrangements are the thing that really make this record what it is. Just insane string arrangements on this record uh, really stand out. And yeah, it's a great record, just not quite to me on the level of the other two.
Well, okay, interesting. For me, the one album, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just don't get it. But I have Bryter Layter at the bottom, 3.5 stars. I don't know. To me, this felt like it should have been a 1968 kind of album. It is really all over the place as far as like stylistically goes. Um, it kind of confusing almost in the way that it jumps around. Um, it's produced by Joe Boyd, who did Fairpoint Convention, Sandy Denny, Richard Thompson stuff. So it sounds great. Some really nice string arrangements on here. It has Dave Pegg and Dave Maddox and Richard Thompson on it, on just one track for Richard Thompson, like the debut, I believe. John Cale, just some orchestration and some playing, maybe not orchestration, but arrangements on two tracks, Fly and Northern Sky, which are probably my two favorite on here, even though I don't really like John Cale that much. I think he does a good job. And this one, it kind of has like an urban bustle to it. I feel like Five Leaves Left is very pastoral, earthy, another good name for it. This one has more major key melodies. It's not quite as wistful, melancholy feeling, at least musically. Lyrically, it's kind of in the same vein, a little more disguised though. A couple instrumental tracks on here, which I don't find very interesting. There's songs like Poor Boy, which has like a jazzy vibe to it. I like the piano from Chris McGregor a lot there. Some like bigger backing vocals, which struck me a little odd. There's like a big blast of saxophone, which surprising. I don't know how I really feel about it, but it's an interesting song, kind of unique sounding. And I don't know, to me, it just felt a little muddled, a little unfocused. Things jump around a lot. The playing production, I think, are elite, but other than Northern Sky, I don't know if anything really stuck. And then closing the album on like an instrumental, I think is a poor choice. Vocally great. I think he sounds like a little bit of a sleepier Colin Blunstone on this album. And I get some of those like same zombies vibes in the arrangements occasionally as well.
My number two is Pink Moon. This the opposite basically of Bryter Layter. Uh, Bryter Layter is the most lush of the three, the most going on, the most instrumentation. Pink Moon brings it back to just him and his guitar, playing in alternate tunings, and just the way he uses the guitar is really, I think, creative and inventive and identifiable. I think this record, if you think about the Nick Drake guitar sound, it's what he's doing on Pink Moon that you really think of, and the way he's able to make it not feel like an entire album worth of just a guy and a guitar. I don't think, if unless you like really thought about it, you might not even realize that that's what you're listening to because there's so fully realized arrangements happening the way he's using almost like each individual string as its like own piece of the arrangement. It works really well. I think the songs are great. The melodies are beautiful. Just an all-time classic folk record, and I love every song on it. I think it's a five-star record.
All right, that's my number two as well. And I liked it, during the 72 deep dive. I think it's during the 72 deep dive where, early 70s, like everything is pretty much like overdone and overproduced in a good way for me, but like things are really like maximalist full sound. To have an album like Pink Moon where it's just none of that, like completely the opposite, totally stripped down. I think the only thing uh, other than guitar and vocal on this whole album is a little piano on the title track. Is refreshing. So I still like it. I still have it at 4 stars. I think the first half is really, really strong. Loses me a little bit in the second half. I just don't think it's quite as interesting. But like you said, the guitar work is really cool, really unique. It's got that distinct sound that his trademark guitar sound is right there, right up front. It's a sad boy kind of record lyrically, and he's often singing, basically like he's detached from his own life, and based on what we know now about him and um, his death in 73 or 74, he basically checked out. Um, so it's a really interesting look into the psyche of a guy that's basically not there anymore. I think what holds it back for me is just the genre, white guy, acoustic guitar. I think is just such a hard thing to pull off and make it interesting for a whole album. Very few people in my mind can do it. Elliott Smith, maybe Richard Thompson, not Bob Dylan. So just that whole thing, I just don't take to the sound that much, but you can't deny the talent and the uniqueness of it all. And it's just a matter of, personal taste, really.
Well, that leaves for me Bryter Layter. We said we've been agreeing too much, but we've got exact opposite lists on all three Listo Juniors. So, yeah, Bryter Layter for me is like Pink Moon's a 5-star record, no doubter, but Bryter Layter's like entirely next level. Like one of my favorite records of all time, probably top 25-ish. Um, Absolutely love it. I think the songs are incredible. It's got amazing arrangements. Every song, it does bounce around a little bit, but I think his voice is so like unique in its own thing that I think it ties everything together. I don't think it feels overly eclectic. You just have incredible tunes. Each one, as I was saying, is arranged in a way that like really strengthens and highlights like what the song is. Every track has its own sort of character to it, but I think they all tie together pretty well. I love Hazy Jane too. Richard Thompson's guitar on that is really awesome. The jazziness of Chime of a City Clock is great. The kind of wide open spaces of one of these things first. Fly is a song that I don't hear brought up very often in discussions of Nick Drake, which I just think is incredibly beautiful. Northern Sky is one of his all-time best compositions. It's a perfect record for me.
Okay, not terribly surprised by that. My number one is gonna be Five Leaves Left, and this is his definitely his most British folk sounding Joe Boyd production, Fairport Convention. Like he was the English folk guy. He wanted an English folk album. You go to Joe Boyd, and you get some, well-known musicians like Danny Thompson on bass, Richard Thompson on electric guitar on the first track, Paul Harris, some great string arrangements on here as well. I think it's I don't know if it's the most unique sounding, but I think for 1969, the way he integrates folk, and then there's some jazziness on this, I don't think you really get anywhere else in his catalog. Um, it's, dark and haunting. You got songs like Riverman, very atmospheric. 3 Hours has a little more jazziness to it, thanks to the stand-up bass. Way to Blue, a big luscious number. And it's all kind of held together by Drake's lyrics and sort of, I don't want to say sad boy, but the melancholy, I think, is just so strong. And you have this other stuff kind of dancing around it, but the melancholy of Drake's vocals and lyrics kind of anchor it all together, I think, in a really good way. And it's a similar mood. It's sort of like, Pink Moon in its mood, not really a Bryter Layter type mood, very like minor key mood. Um, Lyrics direct yet illusory. A lot of memories, unfulfilled longing, that type of stuff. So To me, I think it's my favorite just because it's a little more in the folk tradition, that folk and jazz. Just a really good album for 1969. I think this fits the year it came out really well and kind of ahead of its time. I think, unlike Bryter Layter, which felt a little behind the times maybe to me, but just a really good album. I think it might make my top 25 for 1969 deep dive. We shall see. But yeah, it's the only Nick Drake I think I'd really come back to on a regular basis.
All right, top five songs. All five of mine are from Bryter Layter. And I
That's
just,
wild.
a couple considered from Pink Moon, maybe one considered from Five Leaves Left, but I just cannot deny how much I enjoy these songs. My number five is going to be The Chime of a City Clock. Probably, maybe the jazziest song in his whole catalog. It's got a different vibe than a lot of his material, and I think the string arrangement on it is phenomenal. And it's just got like this kind of different vibe to it. It's kind of sad and haunting, but not in like an obvious way. It's just got this certain like kind of eeriness to it almost.
My number five, I'm gonna go with Man in a Shed, which kind of this like pop jazz song with this complex, fast piano, nice guitar and bass work backing it up. Just kind of a more, I don't know, lively tune than you'd usually get from Nick Drake.
My number three is going to be Fly, which is a song that I think is really underrated, not a song that I hear brought up a lot. The way he just says please and the way he's like pleading through those verses is great. Again, another crazy good string arrangement. So,
My number four, I'm gonna go with Hazy Jane 2. Richard Thompson, unbelievable guitar work as always. It almost has like I don't know, it's not really country rock flavor to it, but it's a different sound. It's lively. It's got some horns to it. Some good lyrics. It's a good tune.
number three for me is going to be Northern Sky. Just a really pretty melody. Again, great. A lot of times his lyrics are a little like surreal or like stream of consciousness, or just like you're not exactly sure what he's talking about. But this one is like straight ahead, like right down the barrel kind of love song. Never felt magic crazy as this, never saw moons, knew the meaning of the sea. Never held emotion in the palm of my hand or felt sweet breezes in the top of a tree, but now you're here, bright in my northern sky. I think it's just a really pretty and straightforward love song.
All right, my number three, I'm gonna go with one from Pink Moon, not the title track though. I'm gonna go with Things Behind the Sun, which I think has maybe his best acoustic guitar work that he ever did. It's just, for how stripped down it is, you really focus on the things that are there, the guitar, the vocals, the lyrics. And I think, just the things he's playing, I don't know if, what weird alternate tuning he's in, but whatever he's doing, it really works. It's complex, but just really just hauntingly beautiful as well.
My number two is Hazy Jane 2. Coming from Five Leaves Left to this, if you're listening chronologically, the way that this just kind of explodes in a way that nothing on that first record does, with all these different sounds, the horns and Richard Thompson's guitar. It's just, I think, like this Technicolor explosion of Nick Drake.
My number two is Northern Sky, one of the two on Brighter Later, arranged or helped by John Cale, who had some really nice piano, um, I believe, piano, Hammond organ, and Celeste to the song. And I think it just kind of brightens it up and livens it up and adds a whole new dimension. Really great lyrics, of course. Really like his singing on it. It's just it's a really great song, and I think John Cale's added accoutrements just put it on another level.
My number one is One of These Things First. Just kind of has this like open road type of feel to it. Very spacious. I love the cadence and the meter of the way he's singing. Could have been this, could have been that. The way he's just kind of like going through all these metaphors for things he could have been. It's a little bit abstract, but you can also tell what the abstractions are talking about, and just the feel of it, the way it just kind of rolls along is great.
My number one would be track one from his first album, Time Has Told Me. I love the piano, Paul Harris. Great work there. This is one of the tracks with Richard Thompson. So he's weaving in these just like idyllic little electric guitar lines here and there. Danny Thompson from Pentangle, great bass. And it's just brighter, fuller, a little less oppressively melancholic. Um, and yeah, it was the first one I heard outside of Pink Moon. And I think just all the elements expanded really what I knew about him in a way that has stuck with me. So yeah, that's my favorite. It's another one that could maybe make my top 25 songs list on 1969. We'll see. Check it out.
That would have been the one that I would have was considering for my top five too. That to me is the standout on Five Leaves Left for sure. All right, let us know what you think of Nick Drake, how you rank his records. I think I've seen every order possible for Nick Drake. I think it just kind of depends where your preferences lie. Check out the video description, link to Patreon there. We do song reactions and you can request album reviews. So head over there if you want to support the channel further. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.